Good afternoon, Evil, and I will tell you one story of a good viewing. I found the first letter on a Tuesday morning, pinned to the inside of my bedroom door with a single, blood-red thumbtack. The envelope was thick and cream-colored, curled slightly at the corners as if it had been aged in dry, stale air. My name was written across it in handwriting I recognized immediately, because it was my own. But I hadn't written it. I stood frozen, the stillness of the house pressing around me like wet gauze. It was too early for this. The morning light hadn't yet stretched past my window, and everything was steeped in that pale, blue-gray hush of dawn. I tore the letter open with trembling fingers and unfolded the thick parchment. There was only one line. "Do not wear the black sweater today." My breath caught. The black sweater in question, an old one, woolen with slightly frayed cuffs, hung draped over the back of my chair. I had laid it out the night before, but now the idea of wearing it made my skin crawl. I hesitated, then chose a gray hoodie instead, reasoning it was probably a prank. Maybe someone had broken in. Maybe this was some elaborate joke. Still, I couldn't shake the sense that the message had been meant for me, and meant in deadly seriousness. That afternoon, as I walked home from the train station, something happened. A cyclist careened around the corner, tires shrieking as they lost control. The man was shouting, panicking, and though I tried to move, I slipped on the wet pavement. The handlebar missed my face by an inch and instead tore into my shoulder. I was dazed, my hoodie ripped and stained. The cyclist was okay, save for a bloodied lip and a dislocated wrist. If I had worn the heavier black sweater, maybe the extra mass, the way it clings, would have caught the bar. Maybe I'd be in a hospital. Or worse. When I got home, shaken and sore, another letter awaited me. This time it was propped up against the mirror in the hallway. I approached it like it might explode. "Burn these letters. Destroy the ink. Or it will follow you." The warning chilled me. What the hell did it mean? I grabbed a matchbook and burned the 2 letters in a metal bin on my patio. The paper curled and blackened, flames licking at the corners. And then something strange happened. As the fire consumed the words, they didn't disappear. They began to glow, etching themselves into the smoke curling upward. The flames whispered, "Not enough." A wind surged across the patio, lifting the ashes into the air like confetti. I stumbled back inside and slammed the door. That night, I dreamed of a dark corridor lined with doors. Each door bore a version of my name, variations in spelling, middle names I never used, surnames I'd never had. Behind every door, something waited. I woke drenched in sweat, a scream caught in my throat. Wednesday. I didn't want to get out of bed, but I had to know. And sure enough, the next letter was taped to the fridge. Today, avoid red. Trust only the silent. I had no idea what that meant. I threw on jeans and a neutral-colored t-shirt and headed out, watching everyone on the street like a paranoid maniac. Was red a warning? A trigger? On the subway, I noticed a woman wearing a red scarf standing across from me. I glanced at her face, blank. Her eyes were glazed, her lips moving silently, mouthing words without sound. A man next to her dropped his phone, and when he bent to pick it up, the woman leaned toward him and whispered something into his ear. He stood, walked to the train door, and stepped off, onto the tracks. Screams erupted. Someone hit the emergency button. I sat frozen, staring at the red scarf as it writhed around her neck like it had a life of its own. She looked at me and smiled. When I got home, still shaking, a new letter waited under my front door. This one was longer, hastily scrawled, the lines uneven. "Don't trust mirrors. One is already watching you. Break it before it breaks you." I turned toward the hallway, where an antique mirror, an old family heirloom, hung across from the living room. It had always unnerved me. Its surface was tarnished, and when you moved past it, your reflection lagged a fraction of a second behind. I approached it slowly. My reflection stood still. I moved my hand. Didn't. Then it did, but too fast, a jolt. A twitch like a puppet being jerked by invisible strings. I screamed and threw a chair at the glass. It shattered, shards flying like razors, slicing into the wall and floor. For a moment, I thought I heard something howl. A faint, inhuman groan lingered in the air. That night, my power flickered. The hallway remained lit even after I pulled the breaker. The fragments of the mirror stayed warm for hours. I threw them into a garbage bag and tossed them into the woods behind my house. Thursday morning, I tried to leave early, before another letter could appear. But as I opened the front door, a breeze rolled in, carrying with it a paper airplane that landed softly at my feet. I picked it up. The message inside was scrawled in barely legible ink. "Don't go home tonight. Don't use your phone. They're listening through the glass." I dropped the letter like it had burned me. I spent the day moving from coffee shop to library to mall. I turned off my phone. People stared at me everywhere I went. I felt like I was being followed, but when I looked behind me, there was no one. No footsteps. Only that sickening pressure, like unseen eyes boring into the back of my skull. At dusk, I gave in. I had to go home. I needed sleep. I needed answers. The house was too quiet when I opened the door. As soon as I stepped inside, I knew I had made a mistake. The shadows were wrong, elongated, reaching where they shouldn't. The photos on the wall all had the same mistake. In each one, my reflection had no eyes. I turned to leave, but the door slammed shut. I was trapped. That's when I heard it, the sound of paper rustling. Dozens of envelopes began sliding out from under doors, seeping through vents, fluttering down from the attic like dead birds. They landed on every surface, couch, counter, floor, each one bearing my name. I opened one. "Thursday, don't go home." Another. "You brought it with you." A third. The mirror wasn't enough. "You let it in." And then, from somewhere deeper in the house, a voice. My voice. But it was wrong, distorted, hollow, like it was echoing up from the bottom of a well. "Welcome home." The floor groaned beneath me. The walls pulsed as if breathing. From the hallway, shadows uncoiled like vines, slithering closer with wet, scraping sounds. My limbs refused to move. As they closed in, one last letter fell from the ceiling fan and landed in my lap. "If you want to survive Friday, run. Don't sleep. And whatever you do, don't answer the door." I didn't sleep that night. After the letters fell like locusts from the ceiling and the voice called my name, my own voice, sickened and warped, I fled. I grabbed only my wallet, car keys, and a flashlight. I left my phone behind. I didn't want to hear it ring. I drove with no destination, taking back roads out of town until the sun broke the horizon in long, blood-orange streaks. Birds avoided the sky. Trees leaned in unnatural directions. And in every reflective surface I passed, car windows, puddles, a road sign, I caught brief glimpses of myself, staring back. Each time, my reflection was wrong. It wasn't mimicking me. It was watching me. Smiling. At 6:07 a.m. I pulled into a rest stop parking lot. It was empty, save for a vending machine humming under a flickering light. A single envelope sat on the driver's seat. I hadn't brought it in with me. This one was darker than the others. The paper was slick and oily, the ink smeared but legible. "Today is Friday. Stay awake. Avoid 7:13 p.m. at all costs. Something steps through. Something steps through." The words felt cold against my brain. I looked up at the sky and watched the sun climb reluctantly above the trees. I had 12 hours. I drove to the nearest 24-hour diner, parked in the back, and took a booth by the window. I ordered coffee after coffee until the waitress gave me a look like I was unraveling in real time, which, in fairness, I was. By 3 p.m. I had a stack of napkins full of theories. Parallel universes? Demons? A future version of myself trying to save me? Or warn me about it, whatever it was. I tried to ask the waitress for the time. She just stared at me. Her pupils were dilated too wide, swallowing the iris. Her lips moved, but no sound came. Then she blinked and her eyes were normal again. She handed me the check and walked away like nothing had happened. At 4:42 p.m. I returned to my car. Another letter was waiting on the windshield. At 7:13, do not be in a room with mirrors. If possible, be underground. If not, run west. I drove again. Fast. No destination, just west. My watch ticked louder with every minute. At 6:40 p.m. I found myself on an old mountain road, the forest crowding the path on both sides. No lights. No signs. Just thick, ancient trees and a gravel road slick with mist. The air smelled like rust and soil. Then my headlights flashed across a building, a crumbling concrete structure, half sunken into the earth like it had been trying to bury itself. It looked like a bunker. Or a tomb. Desperate, I parked and made my way to the door. It was ajar, the hinges moaning as I forced it open. Inside, the air was stale, unmoving. The only sound was the echo of my own breath. And then, deeper within, shuffling. I hesitated. That's when I saw it, another letter nailed to the wall with a jagged piece of metal. This is your last safe place. Lock the door. Cover your eyes when the clock strikes. It can't hurt you if you don't see it. The door slammed behind me. I stumbled backward into the darkness, fumbling for my flashlight. The beam flickered, sputtered, then steadied. I stood in a narrow hall. The walls were lined with scratched tiles, smeared with brown stains that I told myself were rust. I found a rusted metal door and barricaded it with an old chair. The ticking of my watch filled the silence. My heart slammed against my ribs. 7:09. I sat in the corner, clutching the flashlight like a weapon, and pulled my hoodie over my eyes. 7:12. Then silence. The second hand ticked once more. 7:13 p.m. There was a sound low, metallic, like a warping bell tone underwater. The walls vibrated. Dust drifted from the ceiling. I pressed my hands to my face, shut my eyes, held my breath. Then the door groaned. Something came in. I felt it. Not in the air, not by sound. It was a presence. Heavy. Watching. Breathing. The temperature dropped 10 degrees instantly. The flashlight sputtered again. From behind my hands, I felt my vision twitch. My brain screamed to open my eyes. But I didn't. And then laughter. My laughter. Twisted. Gurgling. Then came whispers. So many voices, layered and distant, like a radio scanning every station in hell. He didn't sleep, he knows. We'll have to try again. This time we'll wear his face. One voice stood out. Calm. Familiar. Mine again. It's already too late. The light died. Something touched my face. And then, silence. When I opened my eyes, it was 7:19. The bunker was empty. The flashlight was intact. But something had changed. There was a final letter in my lap. I hadn't seen it before. It was newer, crisp, with unblemished white paper and a return address written in clean, blue ink. From you, final version. The contents. I failed. You will too. But maybe you'll last longer. Burn every mirror. Sleep only when it rains. If the letters stop, it means you're next. Don't look in the dark. Don't answer if you knock. Below it was a list. Dates. Dozens of them. Some were crossed out in red. The final one was tomorrow. I tried to escape. I fled state lines, took new roads, changed my name, never stayed in one place too long. But the letters kept coming. Sometimes on napkins. Sometimes etched in tree bark. Once on the inside of my eyelids, only visible when I blinked in bright light. Each one came with a new rule. A new warning. A new death to avoid. But each one also carried more certainty. I wasn't avoiding fate. I was delaying it. Last night, I found another letter. Not outside. Not in the mail. I coughed it up. Folded perfectly inside my mouth, soaked in blood and bile. It said, "You've run out of road. It walks in your skin now. There's no more tomorrow. I can feel it now. Inside me. Waiting. Watching me from the inside out. If you find this journal, if you're reading this, it means I'm already gone. And soon it will start writing letters to you. Thank you very much and see you all in the next video."